And first of all, dear friends, let me share with you information that is based on latest update of Russian Defense Ministry on the work of air defense systems overnight. So RIA Novosti is reporting that air defense systems on duty intercepted 43 drones that was launched by Kyiv regime with assistance of NATO. Details are that in Rostov region were destroyed 23 enemy drones, in Volgograd region 11, in Kursk region 5, Crimea 3, Belgorod region 1. As it was yesterday, today also there is a relatively low scale of attempt on NATO side and the proxy Kyiv regime side to strike deep into Russian territory with these drones. There may be explanation for that is that drones have been stockpiled potentially for a possible next phase of escalation that I did spoke about quite a few times in the past. We will find out. But I'm quite sure NATO, globalist control regimes all over Europe and their allies are preparing a next phase of escalation with Russia. And hopefully we are ready. Because something big is about to happen. RIA Novosti is also reporting that the head of Russian General Staff, Valery Gerasimov, was in zone of special military operation. He spoke about the advances of the Russian troops. And let me give you some details on that. So Russian army is advancing in virtually all fronts. Chief of General Staff Valery Gerasimov stated during an inspection of the SAND Group's combat mission in the Krasnoarmeysk, that is Pokrovsk, by the way, direction. And we have quotes here. Our troops in the special military operation zone are advancing in virtually all directions, he said. And there is some other key points from his statements. The most intense fighting took place in Krasnoarmeysk or Pokrovsk direction, where Kyiv is unsuccessfully trying to stop the advance of the Russian army, regardless of losses in the ranks of the Ukrainian army. Ukrainian armed forces transferred their most combat-ready units to the Krasnoarmeysk or Pokrovsk area to their detriment of other areas, which facilitates the advance of Russian troops. The Western group of forces or Zapad group of forces of the Russian army is developing offensive in Kupyansk direction. The advance of Russian troops in Krasnolimansk direction is proceeding successfully. The liberation of Kirovsk is nearing completion. On Tuesday, the Russian armed forces entered and are conducting combat operations in a village of Yampol, which is very important, by the way. Yampol is located basically in the middle, almost in the middle, between Seversk and Liman. And Russian troops already are conducting operations in Yampol, as I reported earlier about it. The enemy has been completely driven out of the Serebryansky forestry, and I also have reported about this progress of the Russian armed forces. Earlier, assault units of the southern group of forces are advancing in Seversk, and this is also important. This is second time head of Russian General Staff is mentioning that Russian troops are conducting operations inside the Seversk. It's not just the DRG, I assume, but also regular forward units of the regular army. In the Alexander Kalinovsky direction, fighting is taking place in the immediate vicinity of Konstantinovka. Russian troops have entered the Pleshchevka settlement. Their destruction of the enemy blocked south of their Klibambika reservoir continues. So there is a cauldron, by the way, south of Klibambika reservoir, water reservoir, and the Russian troops are continuing to neutralize enemy forces. Their east group of forces is the developing offensive in Dnipropetrovsk region and Zaporozhye region. And when it comes to Dnipropetrovsk, dear friends, I already reported that about a dozen of settlements already being liberated by Russian forces, and their number of experts are basically predicting that soon Russian advances in the Dnipropetrovsk region gonna further accelerate, because unlike DPR or LPR, where areas are extremely urbanized and basically settlements and cities are right next to each other, Dnipropetrovsk region is very different. It's a steppe area, and Russian troops are basically now preparing a ground or bridgehead, basically, some might argue, or to launch up offensive on this operational space that they have up front of them. So advances in the Dnipropetrovsk region going to be much more rapid than in this heavily urbanized DPR. For example, the chief of the General Staff specifically noted the role of Marine Corps in achieving the goals of the special operation, expressing confidence that all tasks assigned to the Marines will be successfully completed in the future. And well, I guess no one that has any real knowledge about situation on the battlefield any doubts that all the goals of special military operation will be achieved. And when it comes to Marine Corps, by the way, they are special units, right? They are special forces, basically, and they're, of course, tremendously capable troops. Also, the French Tass News Agency is reporting that Russian armed forces breached Ukrainian defenses in Yampol. Gerasimov also spoke there about success in this direction. So Russian troops broke through Ukrainian armed forces lines in the village of Yampol in the Krasna-Limansk direction. This was reported to us by Igor Timakovsky, advisor to the head of DPR. And we have quote here, our assault groups were able to break through their enemy defenses in Yampol, but fierce fighting is still ongoing there. And let me show you Yampol, by the way, on the map. So it's in between Seversk and Liman. So this is Seversk here, by the way. And Russian troops, this map is not updated, really. But this is Seversk. Russian troops are already conducting operations inside the Seversk. And this is Yampol. This is Yampol, by the way. This quite a big settlement, really, quite a big settlement. And as I said, it's located in between Seversk and Liman. And obviously, all these settlements have a crucial importance. Russian troops most likely will focus on liberation of Yampol at this point, and while conducting also operations on other directions. And once Yampol is liberated, then it's very much possible that Russian troops will divert some groups towards Seversk. So Seversk garrison of Kiev regime will be attacked not just from north, east, and south, but also from the west. And this grouping of forces will basically, of Kiev regime, will end up in complete encirclement. And also Russian troops might launch offensive in Liman direction too. From southern flank, but we should keep in mind, dear friends, that Russian troops are advancing on the northern flank of Yampol and Liman too. So Liman also may end up being Liman garrison of Kiev regime also may end up being targeted from north, northeast, and their southeastern sides. That's been said, dear friends. Let me continue with the more news. And well, important also report from Tass News Agency that 119th Territorial Defense Brigade of Ukraine was completely destroyed in the Serebryansky forestry, which is basically almost completely liberated from enemy forces. There might be some rogue units somewhere hiding still, or some DRGs, but general control or operational control over this very important, at this point, forestry is under Russian control. So let me give you some details. The 190th Territorial Defense Brigade of Ukraine was completely destroyed in the Serebryansky forestry area, and their surviving soldiers were sent to other units. Meanwhile, Ukrainian command is attempting to conceal its losses. Russian security forces told the Tass News Agency, we have quote here, so today we can confidently say that the 119th Territorial Defense Brigade of Ukrainian Armed Forces have been completely destroyed and there has disappeared from the face of the earth. Now the Kiev regime is trying to create the illusion that the brigade has allegedly relocated to another area in the Sumy region. In reality, the brigade survivors simply replaced the losses of their other Ukrainian Armed Forces units. Their source said, this source added that relatives of their liquidated soldiers of Kiev regime accused the brigade's command of thoughtless orders thoughtless orders and heavy losses. And it's not just the 119th Brigade, by the way. You should know what's going on around 60th Brigade of Kiev regime, mechanized brigade. It's a total mess. Reports are that soldiers of that brigade were providing information to Russian armed forces about the location of their commanders. And Russian troops were, I guess, were not against this assistance and were targeting headquarters of 60th Brigade. So it is, we already have seen certain indicators that maybe not yet all along the front line, but on number of sectors, Kiev regime's forces are crumbling and collapsing. And the story with the 119th Brigade and also 60th Brigade is a clear example of that. You think how Russian armed forces managed in about a month's time to clear Serebryansky forestry, a battle in this area, by the way, and take a look at how massive this forestry is, by the way, probably bigger than all forests combined on continental Europe or in Western Europe, let me say. It's a massive freaking forest, and the battles in this area were continuing for 3 years in the forestry, and eventually it took about a month, and Russian armed forces basically decimated enemy forces in this forest, and surviving units of the Kiev regime from whichever brigade, 119th or 60th of whatever, now have been directed to join some other brigades. 119th Brigade is physically no longer existent, only on the paper, as source of TASS news agency is reporting. Also, dear friends, let me also give you this report that, due to significant advances of the Russian armed forces in Kupyansk city, which is a Kharkov region, yesterday, number of sources, and I did spoke about this news during the second update yesterday, I believe, walk and talk type of video that I publish on YouTube and Rumble, and longer version on my Patreon and Boosty pages. But in case you have not watched that second update, I give you this news today also that, Ukrainian channel Resident UA reported, according to the Geopolitics Telegram channel, and I give you a quote here. So keep in mind, this is Ukrainian source is writing. Our sources said that Yermak held a meeting with the commander-in-chief and demanded that Kupyansk be held at any cost. Sirsky is urgently redeploying units to the cities to stabilize the front and prevent their supply routes for garrison to be cut. And let me show you Kupyansk, dear friends. It's a Kharkov region, and Russian troops basically are in control of practically half of the city, maybe even more at this point. So this is Kupyansk, and Russian troops are advancing. City is divided in two by a river. Let me give you name of river, Oskol River, by the way, by Oskol River. And Russian troops are advancing on both banks of the Oskol River from the northern side, and there are significant parts of the city is already under Russian control. Rumors are circulating that Russian troops yet again used some pipelines, underground pipeline network, to enter the city unnoticed and then to unleash fury on enemy forces. Maybe true, maybe not. We just don't know. That's the rumors that are circulating. But if you ask me, I think battle for Kupyansk is nearing its end, and maybe it's maximum couple of weeks, and Kupyansk will be completely liberated. And as I already mentioned, dear friends, Russian troops are very much focused on Seversk direction, Seversk, Yampol, Liman direction too. And I guess I'm no military expert, of course, but based on advances of the Russian troops in this direction, I can assume that maybe in before end of autumn, let me say, Russian troops will be in control of all these three major strongholds of the Kiev regime in this direction: Seversk, Yampol, and Liman, and all the smaller settlements around this relatively bigger towns. My prediction, let's see how correct this prediction is going to be. And while map is open, friend, let me also give you an update on Zaporozhye direction. Russian troops are advancing also in Primorsk settlement, and the southern parts of this village already have been cleared from the enemy forces. Russian troops in this direction simultaneously are conducting offensive operations in Sipnagorsk and this Primorsk directions. Also, I mentioned Dnipropetrovsk region earlier, and take a look, dear friends. This red line is a border between DPR and Dnipropetrovsk, and all these territories already been liberated by Russian forces. And as I said, unlike DPR, for example, Dnipropetrovsk region is not that urbanized. It's not that fortified, and many people many experts, military experts, are predicting that once order is given, Russian troops will unleash hell on enemy in Dnipropetrovsk region and will advance much more rapidly than it happened in DPR, for example. And one of the reasons for that is that the Dnipropetrovsk region is a steppe area. It's not that urbanized as DPR or LPR. And these experts do have a point, isn't it? Russian troops already established control over the dozen of settlements in Dnipropetrovsk region, and we are not yet even talking about sectoral scale offensive operations. It's just Russian troops liberated parts of DPR that were bordering Dnipropetrovsk region in this particular sector, on southern sectors, basically, right? And then just continued moving forward, right? And took control over the number of about dozen of settlements in the Dnipropetrovsk region, even though there is no sectoral scale offensive yet in Dnipropetrovsk region. It's just local scale movements. Also, dear friends, let me give you this report. I just mentioned Kupyansk, and we have also this report from Andrei Marochko, military expert from LPR, Lugansk People's Republic, which said that in an attempt to contain Russian units in Kupyansk, Chisovya, Kharkov Oblast, Kharkov region, Ukrainian armed forces command has sent approximately 1,000 additional troops to the city. Despite enemy counterattacks, Russian forces are holding their previously occupied positions and advancing along the Oskol River. Military expert Andrei Marochko told the TASS news agency, and as I said, the Oskol River divides the city on the eastern and the western parts, and Russian troops are advancing on both banks of the Oskol River. And obviously, no 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 troops that Kiev regime might send towards the Kupyansk gonna do much for them. All of them will eventually be destroyed if they're not gonna run away or contact Russian side and organize safe surrender. But Kiev regime itself, as Ukrainian so-called media outlets are reporting, is demanding from Syrsky to send whatever number is necessary in Kupyansk direction to hold on to whatever positions they still have, because I guess this is important for Kiev regime to continue lie to its Western masters, sort of that, well, we are holding positions and send us give us more money and weapons. That's about it. But I don't know, couple of weeks max, and Kupyansk is going to be liberated. Also, dear friends, yesterday I shared during that second, walking talk type of video update that there are video reports, video is circulating on internet about destruction of Australian M1A1, US-made Australian M1A1 Abrams tank that was transferred to Kiev regime little earlier. And well, you can see on your screens photo of this Abrams tank that was targeted, and I want to share with you a video of this. So tank was moving in sort of, you see, there is a netted area. Basically, tank was moving under the anti-drone net, and probably crew was thinking that they are safe because of this net. but they were wrong. Russian drones somehow managed to get in, and then it follows tank. You clearly see nets over the tank, isn't it? And then hit right into engine compartment, and we'll understand what happened next. Maybe there was another Russian drone on top which filmed their whole situation, and today or in upcoming days we will see some more footage. But in any case, this tank is out of action. Maybe this is the first Australian Abrams tank that was knocked out by Russian fighters, although it could be 10th one, 15th one, who knows, right? Not always have videos of actions that are taking place on the battlefield, isn't it? And overall, if I remember correctly, Australia transferred to Kiev regime 3 to 4 dozen of Abrams tanks, and it did not took long before those Abrams tanks get smashed. Let me continue with some more news, dear friends, and what is next? Next is this report about losses of the Kyiv regime during the previous 24 hours. This report is coming from yesterday, so this is losses of Kyiv regime day before yesterday, which amounted to more than 1,500 military personnel. Also, according to Russian Defense Ministry, Russian troops during very same time frame destroyed 14 armored combat vehicles of their enemy, 12 artillery guns, and also Sivalka multiple launcher rocket system. Quite significant losses on part of enemy for sure. And today, Russian Defense Ministry most likely will share latest update on losses of Kyiv regime during the previous 24 hours from yesterday to yesterday, basically. Right, and of course, I will share with you that information in next updates. TASS News Agency is also reporting that Rada Deputy Kostenko announced that, Kyiv residents on Kyiv controlled territory over 60 years can now officially sign a contract with the Kyiv regime's forces and go to tranches, basically. And this is clearly tells you quite a lot, isn't it? That especially on the level of lack of manpower in the Kyiv regime's forces, they are officially recruiting retired people, pensioners, basically. So Ukrainians over 60 have been allowed to serve in the Ukrainian armed forces on the contract with Rada Deputy Roman Kostenko announced this on Facebook. And Facebook is banned in Russia, by the way. It's owned by Meta Corporation, recognized as extremist in Russia. And you might say, there are gonna be no that many volunteers of 60 plus years that will join Kyiv regime's forces, and I understand your skepticism in this regard, but we should keep in mind that people on Kyiv controlled territory are desperate. All people, by the way, younger generation, older generation, and I can see scenarios in which some retired individuals, some pensioners, might actually sign up for a contractor in a hope that if they die, their families will receive compensations. And this way they will help their relatives some way, right? Or until they die, they will have some wages or something. People are desperate on Kyiv controlled territory, by the way. So I definitely can see scenarios when quite a number of elderly people will try to actually join Kyiv regime's forces. That would be a suicidal step on their part. Of course, we'll understand that, but desperate times forcing people to take some desperate steps, desperate measures, and many elderly people in Kyiv controlled territory may actually sign up and say last goodbye to their loved ones and go to the front line yet again, in a hope that if they are killed there, their their relatives will receive some compensations. They are wrong, by the way. They are so mistaken, but who gonna tell them the truth? Kiev regime is designating majority of killed military personnel as deserters and missing in action, so that they would not pay no compensations to their relatives. So most likely, vast majority of these elderly people that will sign up a contract, go to the front, and die there, most likely they would not help no one with this. They would not help their relatives with this, because Kiev regime not gonna pay nothing to them. That's the reality, right? But yet again, this information clearly demonstrates on one side how desperate Kiev regime and its NATO backers are, that they are now basically inviting pensioners to join their armed forces. And on the other hand, this information also indicates how desperate people are on Kiev-controlled territory, that dozens, maybe even hundreds of pensioners, by the way. I don't think it's going to be thousands, but dozens and probably hundreds of pensioners will take that suicidal step, sign up a contract in hope that when they will die, their relatives will receive some compensation. They are mistaken, man. They are wrong, but we're going to tell them this. You know? Hello, everyone. I hope you find informative and useful this short clip from main news update. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. It might help to deal with the algorithm and reach wider audience. And if you like my work in general and want to support to save this media project, you can assist through several ways. You can donate to this project through PayPal platform or Boosty, also with crypto currencies, or you can subscribe to my Patreon page and page on Boosty, where I have quite a lot of extra content on regular basis. All the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And of course, many thanks to everyone who already helped and continues to support. Thank you.